In this podcast episode, Mary Eberstadt discusses the impact of the sexual revolution on women and society as a whole. She argues that the biggest winners of the sexual revolution have been predatory men, while the biggest losers have been non-predatory men, women, and children. Mary begins by explaining that the sexual revolution was initially seen as a positive development, with the advent of reliable contraception such as the birth control pill. It was believed that this would strengthen marriages, empower couples to have control over their fertility, and reduce abortion rates. However, the opposite seemed to happen. Divorce rates and cohabitation increased, and abortion rates skyrocketed. She argues that contraception actually increases abortion rates by changing intentionality. Before reliable contraception, an unplanned pregnancy was seen as a problem for both partners to figure out together. However, with contraception, pregnancy became solely a woman's problem and responsibility. This shift in thinking led to the normalization of abortion as a solution to an unplanned pregnancy. Mary also discusses the impact of the sexual revolution on men. She cites the work of sociologist Lionel Tiger, who argued that once women have sole control over reproduction, men are essentially sidelined and become less necessary as protectors and fathers. This has led to a crisis of masculinity and an increase in single-parent households, particularly fatherless homes. The discussion then turns to the negative effects of the sexual revolution on children. Mary argues that the reduction in stable marriages and the increase in single-parent households have had detrimental effects on children's well-being. Research shows that children in fatherless homes are at a higher risk of abuse and face numerous challenges. She points to the rise in mental health issues among young people as evidence of the negative impact of the sexual revolution. Mary also addresses the role of pornography in the sexual revolution and its effects on relationships. She argues that pornography is harmful to both men and women and has contributed to the breakdown of romance and intimacy. She highlights the lyrics of popular music in the 1990s, particularly rap, which often expressed anger and dysfunction in relationships, as evidence of the negative impact of the post-revolutionary age on young people. The conversation then delves into the feminist perspective on the sexual revolution. Mary argues that feminism took a wrong turn after the 1960s and stopped putting women first. She points to the defense of pornography by some feminists as an example of this shift. She believes that feminism should be concerned with the negative consequences of the sexual revolution on women's well-being and happiness. The discussion also touches on the increase in divorce rates and the rise of cohabitation. Mary explains that cohabitating couples are more likely to break up than married couples, and the risks of abuse to children are highest in homes without a biological father. She sees these trends as an indictment of society and the diminishing value placed on the traditional male role. Mary acknowledges that discussing the negative consequences of the sexual revolution can be controversial and often gets confined to religious circles. However, she believes it is important for people to understand the far-reaching effects of this revolution, regardless of their religious beliefs. She argues that the sexual revolution has had a net negative impact on society and calls for a change in the terms of the debate to address the harm caused by the reduction in social knowledge and human connection. The conversation continues with a discussion on the decrease in women's happiness over the past 50 years. Mary argues that the pursuit of pleasure and immediate gratification has made long-term fulfillment more difficult to attain. She emphasizes the need to change expectations and recover the truth about the negative consequences of radical autonomy. Mary continues by discussing the negative consequences of the sexual revolution, particularly for women. She argues that the revolution has led to a devaluation of women's traditional roles as wives and mothers, and has instead promoted a culture of casual sex and individualism. This has resulted in a lack of commitment and stability in relationships, and has left many women feeling unfulfilled and disconnected. She also highlights the impact of the sexual revolution on society as a whole. She argues that the breakdown of the family unit has led to increased loneliness and isolation, particularly among the elderly. She points to studies on loneliness that show a correlation between the decline of the family and increased rates of loneliness and unhappiness. Mary suggests that the sexual revolution has also contributed to the rise of identity politics. She argues that as traditional family structures have broken down, people have sought to find identity and belonging in other groups, often based on shared victimhood. This has led to a culture of tribalism and division, where people are more focused on their own group identity than on building meaningful relationships with others. She believes that the sexual revolution has also had a negative impact on young people, particularly in terms of their mental health and well-being. Mary argues that the prevalence of social media and screen addiction has led to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness among young people. She suggests that this is because social media and screens cannot replace the deep connections and relationships that are formed through face-to-face interaction. Mary also discusses the role of technology in the sexual revolution and its impact on relationships. She argues that the widespread availability of pornography and online dating apps has led to a culture of objectification and superficiality in relationships. She suggests that this has made it more difficult for people to form deep and meaningful connections with others. The guest concludes by suggesting that there needs to be a re-evaluation of the values and norms that have emerged from the sexual revolution. She argues that society needs to prioritize the importance of family, commitment, and meaningful relationships in order to address the loneliness and unhappiness that many people are experiencing. She also suggests that there needs to be a greater emphasis on empathy and understanding, so that people can recognize and address the suffering that is caused by the breakdown of traditional family structures. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.